Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So today I kind of wanted to focus on somebody that we haven't really talked about as much in this whole saga of the bricks and minifigs versus Reckless Ben situation. I mean, we've talked a lot about Ammon, Josh Johnson, because they kind of stick their foot right in it every single time. Every time they open their mouths, they just kind of make things worse. And there is somebody else that obviously I think holds blame in this situation too, but to his credit, has managed to remain pretty quiet when it comes to this entire situation. He's decided not to speak. We even see a video of him not saying a single word. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But of course, I'm sure you all know I'm talking about Brandon Best, who is the co-owner of the bricks and minifigs store in question, right? The guy that took over the Salem Kaiser store along with Josh Johnson from the Gormans, the guy who actually went into the store some weeks before it was seized to be a secret shopper, to basically, for lack of a better way to put it, spy, right? Spy and see what was going on in that store. And then eventually, weeks later, Brandon went in there as a representative of corporate to seize the store from the Gormans. Now, I, of course, have talked at length about him being there when corporate was on the phone and corporate acknowledged the consignment and saying that Brandon would take it on and all that. So we won't tread over that anymore. But what I wanted to do was play this clip from Benjamin Gorman's YouTube channel, where he talks about that day and specifically a piece of information that wasn't in the CoffeeZilla video. So I'll go ahead and play this right here, and then we'll talk about it.
So we didn't know what would be included. I was really worried that all the chaff, all the distractions, all the multiple conflicting explanations from BAM would cause people to go, this is all very confusing. I'm no longer sure who's to blame. But reading your comments on Coffee's video has made me feel so much better. Those of you who are deep into this story, you already know that BAM's narratives keep changing and contradicting one another. But I worried that someone who was new to the story, not knowing these latest statements directly contradict so many of their earlier ones, might be tricked by this distraction or that one. Seeing how many of you were immediately seeing through their deny, deflect, defame strategy made me feel so much better. And of course, the fact that so many of you have donated to the GoFundMe for our legal expenses so that we can keep fighting them to the bitter end as they try to drag this out and make it exorbitantly expensive, that makes all the difference. Not only does that show your support of us, but it's the best chance to hold their feet to the fire and bring everything out in discovery. Both what they have and what they ought to have but might not. Like a complete inventory of everything in the store they took. You'd think they'd want to create that complete inventory before selling the store to another party, right? And you probably wouldn't trust that other party to create it themselves, right? So they must have it, right? Thanks to your GoFundMe donations, we're gonna find out together. I want to add this detail that didn't get into Coffee's video because I think it's important to understand. The night BAM took our store, we were promised an inventory. By BAM, not by Brandon. By corporate, not a franchisee. Now, the BAM representative told us that Brandon would be doing the inventory, but we've all since learned Brandon and Josh had been told in advance that they would be able to buy the store.
Which, as you know, that's a pretty huge conflict of interest, that you're going to have the guy coming in to take over the store to then also do the inventory. That's when there probably should be a third party. Well, I'll let Benjamin Gorman explain this part.
We know this because Josh told it to the police, who accidentally leaked their body cam footage. So BAM entrusted one of the people they'd offered the store to tell them what it was worth. We've never received that itemized inventory. The franchise agreement gives us the opportunity to challenge that inventory by demanding a third-party evaluator of everything in the store.
So as you can see here, what it says, right? And this is part of the franchisee agreement. This is part of BAM's corporate, their own documentation, right? This is the fair market value of the assets shall be determined based upon the amount that at an arm's length purchaser would be willing to pay for the assets, assuming that the assets would be used for the operation of a bricks and minifig store under a valid franchise agreement reflecting the then current, or if we are not offering franchises at the time, then the most recent standard terms upon which we offer or offered franchises for bricks and minifig stores. Under no circumstances does this calculation contemplate any value be attributed to any goodwill associated with the marks or any value attributed to other intellectual properties or the system standards provided. However, that in amount may, if appropriate, be attributed to the going concern value of your store. You and we hereby agree that the valuation methodology described herein is a fair and reasonable method which to value the assets. So how can it really be fair if the person that you sent to seize the store is also going to be purchasing the store, and you're going to have them be the one that essentially audits that, right? That essentially will do the appraisal, so to speak. Obviously, because they're going to be taking over the store, they're going to do what's primarily, well, presumably, if they're, if they're a dishonest person, will probably more than likely do what's in their best interest, right? To be able to take advantage, right? If they're going to be honest, then maybe they'll, again, be honest, but it's probably not the best idea to put that power in the hands of the person that's actually taking over the store.
Of course we wouldn't have accepted their inventory if Brandon was claiming the Mansell sets weren't.
So now you hear it, notwithstanding the mutually agreeable valuation methodology, if you and we are unable to agree on the final calculation of the fair market value of the assets within 15 days after the appraisal notice, then the fair market value will be determined by a member of a nationally recognized accounting firm other than a firm which conducts audits of our or your financial statements mutually selected by you and us, who has experience in the valuation of the store businesses, the appraiser. If we are unable to agree on the appraiser within 30 days after the appraisal notice, either party may demand the appointment of an appraiser be made by the director of the regional office of the American Arbitration Association located nearest to Salt Lake City, Utah, and this person shall be the appraiser. So basically a third party that would presumably not be biased and not have any kind of affiliation to this, right?
There. And then they would have had to provide a third-party inventory, which would have either revealed everything inside the store.
So it says here, the appraiser will make his or her determination and submit a written report, the appraiser report, to you and us as soon as practicable, but in no event more than 60 days after his or her appointment. Each party may submit in writing to the appraiser its judgment of fair market value together with its reason therefor. However, the appraiser shall not be limited to these submissions and may take such independent investigations as he or she reasonably determines to be necessary. The appraiser's fees, costs shall be borne equally by the parties. So basically, both sides would pay for that. We have the option exercisable by delivering notice, therefore, within 30 days after submission. Can't see the, I assume that says appraiser report, or the date that an agreement is reached if the parties agree to the fair market value to agree. So we'll continue on here.
Or would have immediately conflicted with the photo evidence. So everything about the missing sets could have come to light at the time if BAM had simply followed their own franchise agreement. And they cannot claim they didn't know they had an obligation to provide us a complete inventory, because they promised us one on the phone that night, and it's in the agreement they wrote and signed. Again, we now know the guy they'd sent to the store was someone they'd already promised the store to. Do you think he had any incentive to produce an accurate inventory of what he would have to later pay for the store? Or to deflate the value of the assets to save himself money? I leave that to you and a court to decide.
So we have that, right? And then remember CoffeeZilla's video where he asked him about the high-end sets that were in the back and some that were in the safe, right? When he was talking to Matt McNeff. And I want to play this part for you now.
Again, I'd be surprised if we didn't.
But then I couldn't help myself. I started to bring up some of Crystal's photos to see if they matched up. Have you seen this before?
Not that I recall.
So, do you see that?
Yep.
So do you see it's in like some kind of like a safe thing? I don't know if you can see the sides there.
Looks like a bookshelf to me, but sure.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I think the important thing is making sure that all of these are in the inventory for Mansell.
Sure.
And this is important, right? Because this is the part of the video where CoffeeZilla starts to read off some of those numbers, some of those set numbers that should be on that inventory list that was provided to BAM corporate, right? Presumably on behalf of Brandon after he took over the store. You can see that the prices of these, $199, $199 here. So these are the high-end sets, and they appear to be in some kind of safe here. This was supposed to be in the back. But listen to this. This is what's interesting.
Sure. That's cool.
75041.
Yep. The Vulture Droid.
So these are pictures of ones that seem to be outside of that safe, right? Because you see there's a different background here.
75169.
169 I'm not seeing, so there may be... Okay, so there's one that is not on our list.
Let's try this. 10240.
Okay, nope, not seeing that one either.
What about 9493?
3. I don't see that one either. So maybe those were locked at the time, and Brandon did not get those pictures.
All right, that's kind of a problem because the Gormans had over 200 photos of this store. I definitely...
Okay, and not just that, right? So Brandon probably didn't get those, right? And you would presume that the reason why he did not get those photos is, well, maybe he didn't have access to the safe. But then we have the ring camera footage of the day that the store was seized by Brandon. And I've played this before a couple times in previous streams and videos, but just again for consistency and this video here, I'm going to go ahead and play it again.
And the silver. And then the keys for the back storeroom and the safe are in the safe. Yep.
Yeah, so it was 718, 7128, 7182.
So right there, you can hear that she tells him where the keys to storeroom are. They're in the safe, right? And it appears that what Brandon is repeating to her is the combination to the safe right here.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was 718, 7128, 7182.
The code, right? So we have that, right? And now when we move on, of course, in the timeline of events, the U-Haul truck, where we have the time it was rented out, which was the day the store was seized, okay? And we see the location where it was rented out. It was rented out in Eugene. Now, this is something that, again, there was a little bit of a timeline issue because of the employee that said that the night that all this went down, it was like 4 hours that they spent unloading this truck full of all these Legos. Now, that could have been a situation where the employee did misremember different instances, right, in terms of how long it took. But what I want to draw attention to here, and I think it's important that we do cross this off the list a little bit here, is this, right, is the mileage rate, which is 99 cents per mile, per mile. And it appears that Brandon had driven 160 miles in this U-Haul truck. That's why he was charged $158.40 for the mileage charge, okay? Now, I want to show you this because I think, again, this is important when we look at all the evidence that's out there, right, regarding this. So these are the addresses, okay? This is the address of the Salem Kaiser store in Oregon, and this is the address of the Eugene store that Brandon owns. Now, if you look at it here, it says it's approximately 70 to 75 miles, depending on the exact route that's chosen. The trip typically takes about an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes under normal traffic conditions. Now, more or less from there, we'll just say we'll round it out to the 75. And here's another thing that I want to show you all, okay? How far is where he rented the U-Haul, okay, which is 440 Franklin Boulevard, as we saw on the receipt that Brandon himself provided, okay, to the Eugene store, the Bricks and Minifigs Eugene store. It's about 4.2, okay? So why am I, adding this in here, right? Because in total, it was 160 miles roughly that was driven. So if you think about it like this, okay, and I'm just, just posing this out there, right? He went and got the U-Haul truck, right, from this Franklin Street, right? That's where he rented it from. Could have gone to the store, but we'll just say, look, he rented it from this place. He went from here to here, right? Probably went from his store to Franklin Boulevard, got the U-Haul truck, went to Kaiser Salem, right? Loaded it up, went back, right? Went back to his Eugene store, right? And then from the Eugene store back to the Franklin Boulevard address to return the U-Haul truck. That would more or less account roughly for that 160 miles total, if you look at it, right? So I just wanted to point that out as well. And just remember also, when Ben went to go confront Brandon in order to do the good faith effort for the lawsuit that he had filed against him, right? This is what ended up happening.
But before going the hard way, I actually remembered that there's another owner of the store named Brandon Best. Brandon is the guy in the security camera footage that illegally kicked the first owner out of the store so he could steal all their Legos. I tried calling him, but I am also blocked.
I'm sorry.
The only option left is to show up to his house.
Hello. Hey, how's it going? Hello? Hey, well, I was wondering if you'd be down to pay us for the lawsuit that we won.
It's actually the one thing Brandon's done right? Is just stay silent. So, just awkwardly stared at Ben and stuff until the police arrive.
It kind of seems like Brandon doesn't want to have this good faith conversation to resolve this problem outside of court. And I gave him plenty of time to speak.
I guess if you don't want to talk, I'll just talk. So you guys told us to take you to court. We went to court and we won. We know you closed down the store to avoid paying us, so we could just sue you guys personally and do the whole thing again. We would obviously win again, but
then the police showed up, and again, for some reason, they are really trying to protect these criminals.
He didn't steal anything. He inherited the store from somebody else.
No, he stole $200,000
How
worth
do you
of...
know this?
Because I've been spending the last 3 months in the case, and I won in court.
He inherited the store. He's being blamed for everything that the previous owner did, and he's trying to...
So here's an interesting thing, and one of my biggest takeaways, and this is something that I would like to get body cam footage, and I don't think any of it has been released of these officers just yet, but how this officer really goes pretty much out of her way to defend Brandon, I thought was interesting, because it seems like, again, these police seem to have a lot of personal ties to these guys in some ways, or at least this one especially came across how hard she was defending him. I thought it really stood out to me, because it shows, again, that they're willing to give these guys a pass. Now, I don't know. She might not know him at all. Maybe they just have a very, casual relationship. Possibly, maybe they go to the same church. Maybe they live in the same neighborhood. I don't know. Whatever it might be. But I just found it interesting how she was just like, oh, well, hey, nothing that he's doing was his fault. He inherited somebody else's mess, essentially. So she's basically repeating the narrative that Brandon and Josh and Ammon and whoever else is willing to listen has put out there, or has been trying to put out there. So this is, another instance where, again, this officer should probably be investigated as well. And I would really like to see what footage is released regarding this particular incident, from the body cam perspective.
It's a lot. So we.
Okay, hold on. I'm still
okay,
talking.
I'm sorry.
He's still trying to clean up the mess from the previous owner, and now he's catching blame for it. And he's just trying to clean up the mess from the previous owner.
No, him saying that it's the previous owner, that's a lie, and we already proved this in court.
If
Okay.
you come back and step foot on this property, you're gonna go to jail.
The police gave me a formal trespass notice, which I took a picture of.
See, and you see, she bought into the narrative. It was not the fault of, Brandon, previous owner. Just, he inherited somebody else's mess. And again, I'm sure there's going to be more information that comes out against Brandon as well. But these are just certain things that I wanted to point out, because I feel like he hasn't gotten a whole lot of the blame, and he definitely has some of the blame in this situation. And he needs to be held to account for the things that he did in this particular situation as well, and why it's gotten as bad as it has as well, and how certain things along the way definitely look like a conflict of interest on Brandon's part, and why he would definitely have an incentive to not be 100% honest, at least in regards to when it came to the inventory and things like that, and how really he shouldn't have been there to essentially serve as some kind of auditor in the situation, or appraiser for the Legos. So, and again, with the information that Brandon himself provided, it just substantiated the claims, right, about the U-Haul, that the existence of the U-Haul. We know that it happened. Now we go through this and we see that, a plausible situation, a plausible scenario could be, and again, this is just me speculating here, is that, what Brandon did, got the U-Haul that day and just drove from Eugene down to Kaiser Salem, back from Kaiser Salem over to back to Eugene, and then went and dropped off the U-Haul truck. Now, he did drop off the U-Haul truck before its due date. He dropped it off sometime late in the night on the 14th, which would make sense. But again, the mileage is really what we have to look at here. It would exactly,
on November 14th. This checks out what we already know.
It would exactly align with him going to those locations, right? When we add it all up, again, the 70 to 75 miles, the 4.2 miles to the actual place where he picked up the U-Haul. So to me, it's, again, speculating, of course. There's, it's possible that there could be another explanation, but that's what I think about it. So, but anyways, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. The GoFundMe for Ben and the gifts and go for Ben. I should say the GoFundMe for Brian link is in the description. The gifts and go for Ben. I always get them confused. The gifts and go for Ben is also in the description below. If you guys want to donate to that or share it around, it'll help both those gentlemen in their legal case. And I'll also link Coffee's video for those of you that want to see this as well. And I will also link Benjamin Gorman's video if you guys want to check this out as well in the description. So, but that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think, like I said before, and I'll catch you all on the next one.